New concerns for gun owners as the new year kicks in. The UN Arms Trade Treaty is now in effect, and all eyes are on the U.S. to see what it does next. The treaty signed by the Obama administration last September does not exclude civilian firearms and threatens our individual freedoms. Although word from Capitol Hill is there's no chance the Senate will ratify this treaty, what's more likely to happen is that President Obama will do what he's become quite good at, make an end run around Congress and sign an executive order. Because, as John Bolton told me, our Constitution is simply an inconvenience to this president. Take a look.
Make no mistake, this treaty will not diminish anyone's freedom.
All of us must meet our responsibility to observe and enforce international norms.
Well, I think it's like looking through the wrong end of a telescope. This is the most radical president in our history. He's taking steps that have made America less safe all around the world. What it says for gun owners in America is it's a threat to their Second Amendment liberties. I think we have to worry about the president taking executive action against gun owners based on this unratified treaty. Clearly, this is something that suits his ideology.
I've got a pen, and I can use that pen to sign executive orders.
He's not going to get any kind of gun control through Congress that he wants. And his creative lawyers will find ways, I'm afraid, to take this executive action that will sweep very broadly.
Where I can act on my own without Congress, I'm going to do so.
This is a president who acts without any sense of executive restraint. The Constitution is an inconvenience to him. This is, I think, as blatant a usurpation of authority as we've ever seen in this country. So the issue to me is not what particular policies he's implementing, it's the damage done to our constitutional structures. If you can ignore the separation of powers in the main body of the Constitution, you can ignore the freedoms that are protected in the Bill of Rights, too. I hope gun owners all across America take him to court immediately if he tries to do that. I think it's very important for the new majorities in the Senate and the House to use the power of the purse.
Why would we ever sit down with bad actors and let them decide what our policy will be going forward? Bad idea. Doesn't make sense.
I would move early to say we're going to have a Second Amendment Protection Act that precludes the president from using any appropriated funds to do anything with respect to the Arms Trade Treaty. We've seen what happens when you ignore an issue and allow the president to act. He is running for his legacy. That worries me more than anything else.
We all know that from day one, the UN claimed that this treaty was all about keeping firearms out of the hands of rogue regimes and terrorists.
This is about reducing the risk of international transfers of conventional arms that will be used to carry out the world's worst crimes.
You look at what happened in Australia, the hostage situation in that cafe, and then you look at what happened in Pakistan, more than 130 children slaughtered. How would a treaty like this ever stop that from happening?
It's the same fallacy as gun control legislation domestically, that if we had it, then somehow criminals wouldn't get weapons. I think it leaves innocent citizens who simply want to protect themselves far more vulnerable. A lot of countries will sign this treaty and then completely ignore it. The threats to the United States, the threats to our people overseas are not going to be decreased by this. Our troops will be just as much in danger all around the world, our diplomats, our business people, our tourists. The real agenda has always been domestic gun control in America. The rest of it, I think, has been essentially camouflage.
At recent meetings to begin implementing the treaty, an anti-gun NGO, Control Arms, the director, Anna McDonald, made the decision to exclude pro-gun NGOs from those meetings, basically running the show. Reason to be concerned?
Absolutely. They're very astute politically. Nobody should underestimate their political skills. And particularly with an ally like Barack Obama in the White House, I think they will try and take advantage of the next 2 years, the remainder of his presidential term. I think it's a potentially very vulnerable period for the Second Amendment.
We can attend the meetings, and yet there's a proposal out right now that would require the U.S. to pay 22% more than any other country to implement this treaty. and we haven't even ratified it.
Well, 22% is the amount we normally pay to fund UN agencies. That's our assessed contribution. But clearly what they're trying to do is take every step they can to act as though the treaty has actually come into force. And this will be interesting to see if the president tries to use appropriated funds to pay that quote-unquote U.S. share. And I think this is another place where Congress, through resolutions, can express no funds appropriated under the statute can be used to pay any amount to the treaty body that the Arms Trade Treaty sets up.
John, even if the treaty isn't ratified here in the U.S., how will gun owners here feel the effect of it?
Well, this is a very important point because it will have an impact on Americans traveling internationally, on American-based gun manufacturers and their international sales, which already has the world's most extensive system of export controls and for collectors and museums as well as hunters. It could prevent us from importing weapons. It could limit our ability to export them. So in this web of regulatory structures that could be created under the treaties, it could have a very profound effect. And I think the gun control advocates are counting on that.
Do you think, though, the American people are waking up, that they're realizing what's at stake if Obama continues to get his way with all these executive orders?
I think the president's popularity is at an all-time low. I think the 2014 election results demonstrate people are waking up. More and more people are having buyer's remorse. The problem, I think, for Second Amendment rights is we've got a president in the White House who's fully prepared to abandon the step-by-step approach. And if he can come after this and get away with it, it's hard to see what limit there is on his authority.
Even if people don't own a firearm, should they be concerned about a president who is so willing to move forward on a treaty like this?
Absolutely. We've got, unfortunately, in the White House now, a classic example of what the Constitution was structured to prevent, a requirement that the Senate, by a supermajority, 2/3, approve all treaties. I think whether you're a Second Amendment advocate or a First Amendment advocate, you have to be concerned when somebody else's liberty is taken away. Because if it can happen to them, it can happen to you.
As concerned as you are, John, about the direction this country is headed right now, do you see yourself running for president?
Well, I'm considering it, and I'm considering it for the same reason I did last time. I think the country's security internationally is at stake. I think our freedoms at home are at risk, and I think this is what really motivates people fundamentally. I think it's recoverable. I don't believe in tipping points. I don't think it's something we can't correct. I think we're in a dangerous period. I think it's important for citizens who value their liberties to be in touch with their new majorities in both houses of Congress to say, you've got to stand up to this. This is a question of protecting fundamental constitutional principles. So for those of us who are concerned about American exceptionalism and the freedoms we enjoy here, it's going to be a hard-fought 2 years.